families. In Harlesden's heart, the Ostrowskis reside, a nuclear family with nowhere to hide. Daniel felt ecstatic to hang a new frame, albeit his DIY skills were rather to blame. Dzień dobry, cried Larissa as Daniel drew near. The infantile hammer filled her with fear. He tried not to mar the wall's pristine white, but his erratic movements were a notorious sight. He stood on the brink of a DIY disaster as the hammer met wood, then shattered the plaster. To exacerbate matters, Tamara was out. The abysmal hole made Nicodem shout. Przepraszam, said Daniel, his face turning red, as a dark, stormy cloud hovered over his head. The wall was a crumbling cliff, steep and wide. They'd need to collaborate or certainly hide. Back to the drawing board, Olga did wail. Their premature triumph had started to fail. But Tamra returned, her spectacles bright, to assess the destruction with a mother's insight. She didn't berate or succumb to the gloom, though the dust had invaded the entire room. I'll fix it, she promised, a tool in her hand, the finest repairwoman in all of the land. With Larissa's assistance, the surface grew sleek, smoothing the ruins that looked rather bleak. Bardzo dobrze, said Tamara, polishing the spot, as Daniel decided that hanging was not his primary talent or source of great pride, so he tucked the remaining frames safely aside. The Ostrowskis converged, 5 pairs of glass lens, making the best of a mess with their kin and their friends. In Park Royal's bustle, where the sky looked gray, lived Margaret and Jaden in a different way. Their cohabiting home was a whirlwind of noise, filled with 5 boisterous, energetic boys. Jaden, in glasses, felt the peril increase as he fought for a moment of quiet and peace. To postpone the chores would just prolong the mess, as the former and latter felt rising distress. "Oh, Dabo," he called, as he reached for a plate. Before things could further deteriorate, things went pear-shaped quickly. The final straw was Chantel's refusal to follow the law. Under no circumstances would she eat her veg, driving poor Margaret right over the edge. Chantel, in her glasses, was reticent and shy, as a lightning bolt tantrum lit up the sky. Nick and Caleb, aged 4, were a chaotic pair, with a penchant for tossing their toys in the air. The twins were a handful, a cacophony of sound, as they crawled and they tumbled all over the ground. Despite their age, they preferred the old ways, lost in a foggy, infantile haze. They clung to their bottles and nappies with glee, the most unconventional toddlers you'd see. Bobby and Elijah, the youngest of all, wrote messy new scripts on the dining room wall. They shunned any food that required a bite, turning every mealtime into a fight. Only smooth baby food would suffice for their needs, ignoring the garden's more crunchy-like seeds. Jaden just sighed as he cleaned up the floor, wondering what chaos was waiting in store. Near the Neasden Temple, so gold and so grand, Eugenia Sr. and his boys walked hand in hand. A lone parent family, since Mom passed away. Oy vey, sighed the father. It's a long, busy day. Jaden, 13, checked his glasses with care. While a relentless heat hung thick in the air, they wouldn't let sadness or sorrow intervene in the precious relationship of each Eugene. Eugene Jr. was prone to a moan, with an incessant hunger he couldn't disown. "I want a Big Mac," he began to entreat, the sibilant sounds echoing down the street. His father explained they had culture to see, but Eugene Jr. was hungry as hungry can be. His patience was brittle, his mood rather sour, as they approached the great temple's white tower. He started to sabotage the afternoon plan, as only a hungry 11-year-old can. To elude his father, he sprinted ahead, but tripped on a curb and saw nothing but red. The omen was bad. His burger was forfeited, as his initial excitement was quickly aborted. Jaden watched on, his brow furrowed in grief, wishing for moments of silent relief. Eugenia Sr. knelt down by his youngest son's side with a heart full of love and a sense of great pride. "You're such a mensch," he whispered with care, as he smoothed out a lock of the boy's messy hair. The temple could wait for another fine day if it meant that the sadness would all melt away. They'd head for the burgers and fries in the end, with a father who acted as both guide and friend. At Wembley Stadium, the crowd gave a roar as the Sheridans gathered to check on the score. An extended family, 3 generations deep, with secrets and stories they all liked to keep. Baha and Shona, both wearing their specs, thought of the itinerary and what happened next. "Namaste," said Shona, as the sun began to wane, while sibilant whispers sang through the rain. Desire and Fabian, siblings so bright, followed the floodlight's magnificent light. Desire, 13, kept her glasses in place, while excitement was etched on her brother's young face. Fabian, 11, let out a loud cheer as the pitch and the players drew suddenly near. The penultimate whistle was nearly in sight in the ultimate struggle of sporting might. Tim, were busy as bees. Katie and Christina were eager to please. A same-sex family with 3 daughters small, whose portraits were destined to hang on the wall. Both mothers had hair that was flowing and long, and glasses that made them both look very strong. The calm before the storm was a fragile delight, before things turned into a chaotic sight. Natasha pushed Ruth, who let out a cry, as Hannah watched on with a tear in her eye. Natasha, in glasses, was trying to draw, but Ruth wanted colors she hadn't yet saw. A petulant storm was approaching the space, reflected in every small daughter's young face. It was more than the mothers had bargained for today, as the peace of the morning began to fray. Hannah, the youngest, just 2.5, started to cry, then began a small laugh. She'd painted her nose with a dollop of green, the funniest sight that the room had yet seen. Christina knelt down to wipe off the mess, trying to soothe the toddler's distress. The portraits were messy, the colors were bold, a story of chaos that had to be told. Love one another, Christina did say, as the clouds of the tantrum drifted away. Katie took Natasha's small hand in her own, showing the kindness that they'd always shown. They drew a big heart with a pencil of gold, a story of unity, brave and so bold. The hostilities ceased as they shared a big hug, safe on the warmth of the living room rug. For though they were different, each family was grand, the antithesis of lonely, all over the land. From Harlesden to Wembley, and Kenton so fair, there's a special kind of magic in the Brent air. Whether nuclear, blended, or one parent strong, in this borough of London, we all can belong. So celebrate families of every design, for in their own way, they each brilliantly shine.